What's going on, dear viewers? This is your gracious host, Kaine Walker. Following up on why Smash Brothers is not a fighting game, I figured I'd address the comments left behind after kicking the hornet's nest. Also, further extrapolating the reasoning behind it being objective and not subjective using historical record. Now, without further ado, I present why Smash Brothers will never be a fighting game. Before we continue, I wanted to point out that every argument made against part 1 was addressed before it even reached the comment wall of that video. Every argument against this position involved changing the definition of a fighting game, simplifying the definition of a fighting game, false equivalences between games of different genres, and avoiding the idea of a thing being changed to the point of transmutation. Only 3% of viewers watched to the very end with an average view duration of 3 minutes 23 seconds. Goes to show that you can shove the truth in people's faces all you want, and they will still act as if it's not even there. Let's be honest. The debate over whether Smash Brothers is a fighting game has been going on for quite some time. It's a topic that resurfaces time and time again, fueled by passionate fans on both sides. To understand why, we need to start with what defines a fighting game. Fighting games are built around a core set of principles, demonstrably so, as seen in-game. Health bars that must be depleted, a limited stage environment, and a clear direct objective to drain your opponent's life before they drain yours. Street Fighter and Tekken exemplify this, and they both set the standard for what a fighting game is for both 2D and 3D. They each have strict rules, rounds, and stable conditions that remain consistent match after match. Smash Brothers upends these conventions. Instead of health bars, you have a percentage meter that increases as you take hits, making you easier to knock off the stage. Instead of stable arenas, you have platforms, environmental hazards, and stages that can shift mid-battle. The primary goal isn't to reduce your opponent's health to 0. It's to launch them beyond the boundaries of the screen. This changes everything. Some Smash defenders argue that because the game features combos, neutral play, spacing, and whip punishing, or the like, it's close enough to a fighting game. But this is where cherry picking comes into play. Sure, Smash includes concepts like controlling space and timing attacks, but so do countless other genres. Having a handful of overlapping mechanics doesn't make two experiences identical. If that were the case, racing games with shooting mechanics would be called shooters, or beat-em-ups with combos and strings and special moves would be called fighting games, but they are not, because the context matters. Often you hear the argument that the standard play of Smash and the competitive aspect should be taken separately. Just turn off items, they say. Use Final Destination only. Set a timer. Indeed, Smash has a built-in timer, and players often rely on strict rule sets to create a more competitive environment. But customizing a game doesn't rewrite its fundamental DNA, or its design philosophy, which the fan base conveniently ignores. The timer might prevent stalling, but it doesn't transform Smash's platforming chaos into a traditional health-based showdown. Modifying settings to try and force Smash into the fighting game box is like trying to pass off a sports car as an off-road vehicle just by changing the tires. Remember, Smash Brothers was conceived by Masahiro Sakurai as a battle royale style party game. Its core identity is rooted in accessibility, chaos, and spontaneity. This design philosophy stands in stark contrast to the carefully measured, rule-bound nature of fighting games. The very need to debate what counts as a fighting game, endlessly asking what is a fighting game, to justify Smash reveals a fundamental incompatibility. As said in the previous video, the statuses of fighting games is undeniable. There is no question whether or not Street Fighter or Tekken are fighting games. With Smash, however, there seems to be. If Smash effortlessly fit into the genre, there'd be no need to constantly reshape the definition. This brings us to the heart of the issue. If we stretch the meaning of fighting game too far to include Smash, we dilute the genre's identity. Genres exist for clarity. They help us set expectations and understand what we're getting into. Standards and distinctions exist for a reason, and without those standards and distinctions, the labels become meaningless. If anything can be a fighting game, just because it includes combat between characters or characters fighting, then the genre loses all significance. So then I must ask you, dear viewers, when is something not a fighting game? Don't get me wrong. This isn't about whether Smash is a good game. It's fantastic at what it does. Smash carved out its own unique space. Platform-based party-brawler hybrid that encourages improvisation and chaos rather than the rigid structure of health bars and rounds. If you listen to Sakurai's design philosophy and his rationale behind making the Super Smash Bros. Series, he will explain Smash to be the antithesis of fighting games. And the true tragedy of this all is that the fan base is so in the way of that vision, even though he has successfully achieved it. There never existed a single game in the market that could offer an experience anywhere akin to Smash Bros. Yet that beauty in and of itself, the genius Masahiro Sakurai, is underappreciated. That is criminal. In the end, Smash Bros. Will never be a fighting game, and that's not a bad thing. It stands on its own, a testament to creative design and player-driven customization, the ultimate expression of both creator and player freedom. Let it remain the unique phenomenon it has always been, and it was always meant to be, and leave the fighting game label to those that adhere to the time-tested standards that define the genre. Objectivity in historical context. The original sets the foundational standards and expectations for a genre or tradition. Mechanics, format, aesthetics. This has been the case for every genre. Its legitimacy is self-evident because it defined the category in the first place. There was nothing before it. By merely existing as the first of its kind, it becomes the reference point against which all others are measured. The original never needs justification, while the copy always needs to convince. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe I have gone on long enough. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube things, and click the links in the description to keep your fingers on the pulse of Cosmocom. This has been your gracious host, Kaine Walker. I'm signing off, and I will see you all again next time.